Rock and Roll Union interviews. This is CT. This week's interview is with Johnny D. Johnny D grew up a local musician to the Philadelphia scene. Really excited to talk to him. He was one of the founding members of Britny Fox. He also went on to play with Doro for the past 25 years. Very excited to talk to Johnny, and let's get to it. Guys, I want to welcome Johnny D. Thank you, Johnny, for joining us today.
Yeah, you got it.
Man,
Good
so
to be here.
I wanted to ask you, you grew up on the East Coast, man. You were real big here in the Philadelphia area. Could you walk us down memory lane a little bit? Give us an idea what that old scene was like.
Well, I grew up in Conshohocken on the PA side, so bit out in the suburbs from the big city, but we could drive in, have access to some big concerts and stuff like that, and but for me, personally, I got into music I was pretty young, just checking out my older sister's music, loves and stuff like that. There was always music around, so I was constantly being injected with some good music and a lot of AM and FM radio stuff, and just, as we all did back then, pre-internet days, we were all kind of getting the same feed of music, whether it was, the radio playing all the bands you kind of knew. It was pretty hard not to know what was going on at that time, but so yeah, I grew up like any other kid in the burbs, raising hell, causing trouble, getting into bad stuff once in a while, mini bikes and motorcycles, and throwing rocks at cars and shit like that, just because we're bored out of our minds. And one day I had a really bad motorcycle accident on a dirt bike, riding motocross, and I screwed my leg up pretty bad. So I spent the summer basically unable to walk. And I finally got onto crutches and stuff, but I couldn't really do anything too physical. So that's when I kind of really got into music, listening, and trying to teach myself how to play the drums. And yeah, that went on for quite a while, and then took the normal path of getting together with friends, trying to jam in the basement or garage, and eventually hooking up with some people that that got me into playing in the clubs, and started out in a cover band, and then sort of slowly got into playing some originals. I played in an early version of a band with John Corabi called Fragile, which was pretty big around Philly and South Jersey, as you know. I don't know how old you are, but
I'm mid-40s, but I grew up in the scene, so.
Yeah, so, at that time, the clubs were packed, huge clubs in Jersey, down the shore, Philly, packed with great bands that actually did mostly cover songs. But it wasn't like, some were top 40, but a lot of them did shows like Genesis show, The Who, Zeppelin. It was like really, really cool classic rock stuff. And so I cut my teeth on that, saw a lot of bands playing around the Jersey Shore um, and in South Jersey and Philly, and kind of just got into the scene at that time. And then there sort of started this little swell of like original music. So we were all starting to get into that, and then there became a scene, at the Galaxy and the Empire and Bonnie's Rocks and Dr. Jekyll's, and you just start getting in with that crowd, and that's what I did. It's pretty much a lot of the same people I still am friends with, but yeah, that's pretty much how it started. Like everyone else, you just kind of it's like moths to a light bulb. You all kind of gravitate towards the same thing when you're into rock and roll. Everybody was like, okay, where do we go? Oh, you got to go here, and then everybody would kind of hang where it was happening. So you find your way somehow.
I gotta say, one thing that was big back then that I'd love to see get back to is all ages shows, man. I think that had a lot to play in that scene, a lot to do with that time period. Was kids under 18 were able to come see a good rock show.
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't many. Wasn't many venues doing that, but luckily the Empire would do it. Whatever it was, early Sundays, doing some shows like that, and then at night they could charge, the normal bar scene, doing like two sort of things a day and stuff like that. So it was a really cool thing because the timing of it was perfect for all the bands around that late 80s, the Cinderellas and all the even on the sort of new wave or the poppier side, the Hooters and all the other bands that were playing around Philly and stuff like that. It was really convenient to have a wider audience other than just the drinking age. Because when I was 18, I was legal to drink, and then they changed the age to 21, and then everything kind of went to shit at that point. It became, such, it's not a huge number in difference of age, but it was a major sort of change in the audiences of clubs, club bands and stuff. So yeah, those all ages shows were excellent, man. And you got such a more sort of just a different energy, just kids that were seeing bands for the first time, and it was great for them too, because I wish I would have had something like that happen.
Right.
To sneak into clubs, to see anybody in the early stages. If you didn't go to a concert at, say, the Spectrum or something, you had to sort of find your way around smaller venues somehow.
So how did being in that scene kind of end up with you being in Britny Fox?
Well, I pretty much knew everybody already. There was a bit of stuff in between where I actually, one of the first people that I jammed with or, started in bands with was Billy Childs from Britny. We both were from Conshohocken, so we, he's a few years older than me, so he kind of showed me the ropes as far as some of the other music that I wasn't really turned on to. At the time, he turned me on to Rush and a bunch of other more progressive bands and stuff like that. I was just completely into Kiss and all kinds of like real simple stuff, So with a combination of that and learning all the tunes at the time, we started to get really pretty locked in as a rhythm section and stuff like that. But then a little later on, I got a big break through another friend from Philly, and I ended up in the band Wasted from England. And I spent some years in England making a record and touring with Wasted. And so I was away from the scene for a while. A lot of stuff was happening while I was basically away. But then the Wasted thing ran its course around from the time like 86 to 87. We did a support tour for Iron Maiden in the States and some Eastern European countries and stuff like that, which was a huge, I cut my teeth on sort of the bigger picture of playing arenas and stuff like that. So when Wasted sort of whittled down to, um, nowhere again, they lost their record deal. We were stuck out in California auditioning guitar players. I got a call from the guys in Britny, and it was at that point where they were just about to make a record. They had already done the whole scene with Tony Destra, and then Tony passed away, unfortunately, and they got Adam Ferrioli to come in for a while. And then when they signed with Columbia, they asked me to, if I was into joining the band, which I said yes, because I had really no future with Wasted anymore. So I came back to Philly, Jersey, and jumped in with Britny. I knew, like I said, Billy, I knew Michael, I knew Dean because I replaced him on drums at a time in a band called World War III, which was also from the Philly burbs. And so we were all familiar with each other. It was almost like just coming home and getting into a band with some of the people that you really know well. So that was an easy transition for me.
Now, your first two albums, Britny Fox's first two albums, really, really sold well, especially with Girls' School. Girls' School kind of went off the hooks. And as far as filming that video, as far as like, when did you guys know you really had something as far as Girls' School and gaining that popularity?
Well, I think, Dean had something all along with those songs and the name of the band and the image, and it just needed the right ingredients to really sort of make it a reality. The guy had a concept and a vision, and at that time, having something like the image that the band was trying to portray kind of set us apart just the slightest bit from a lot of the other bands, because everyone was trying to do the same thing at that time, and just to be even a little bit different could set you out from the crowd a bit. So it was really kind of I wouldn't say pre-planned, but I would say that it really, with the timing and everything that was going on, it fit right in with what was happening. I mean, It was like we jumped into the stream as it was really pushing down, so we had all the pieces in place to really be successful. We had great songs, we had an image, we had a big label that signed the band, we had everything was looking pretty good. So we probably never imagined, getting a gold album or anything like that. We just kind of wanted to get something happening, and be part of the fun. But it all really did happen quite quickly once we finished the record. I mean, Columbia put their machine to work, and they really didn't have to do much. I mean, there was no, okay, guys, we have to bring in outside songwriters and this thing to do that. And I mean, the band was pretty much like ready to go, It was like the concept, the name, everything was already there. All they had to do was promote it, and all we had to do was make a good record, which, the songs were tested in the clubs for, a couple years already. Everybody sort of, fans loved the songs and stuff like that. So the band just kind of had to do their thing, and it all kind of rolled into place.
Now, by the time the third album came out, you guys had a different singer. It was a different time period with grunge and alternative coming in. How was that moment for you guys? I mean, it was really a really strange moment in rock for a lot of bands at that point.
Yeah, it was tough, I think, for everybody. I mean, we didn't really. We just tried to keep our nose to the grindstone and just keep working. But it was frustrating and tough. But we had already. It wasn't like we went from, triple platinum on MTV one day, and then down to finding a singer and stuff. There was a gradual downswing because of Dean's unhappiness with the band at that time. The second record didn't sell even half of what the first one did. So some people kind of forget about that, or think that maybe there was like this, just somebody flipped the switch from one day to the next. There was a gradual decline for us from the first album. Actually, the whole period of the second album was like we had hoped for so much, but we never really got up to that hill to get some momentum to cruise. We
Right.
were really, so we saw really a lot of the writing on the wall at that point. And then when the second album didn't really take off like we had wanted to, we were just kind of starting to second guess everything. The label was sort of trying to tell us what to do, and the band were having internal disagreements about direction and dressing differently and this and that, and how do we keep up with the times? Do we stick with our guns, or do we start changing things around? So when Tommy came along, after we auditioned a bunch of people and we got decided on Tommy, my son wants to say hi.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, this is Yanis.
Say hi, man.
Say hi. Say hi. Wave hi.
That's a good
Can you
smile.
wave? Yeah, so it was tough, but we just wanted to make a great record. At that time, we had to get a new label, and we had to do, everything we could to just keep the momentum going for, the name Britny Fox, and for all the fans that we have, which were, waiting for us to really come out with another record and keep things going.
And I think there's still a lot of us out here that would love to see something happen again and miss the old band. Now coming out of that, you jumped on board with Doro. You've been with Doro for like 25 years at this point. How has that whole adventure been for you? I'm sure you got your road tales to tell.
It's been great. I think he sees himself. He loves that. You're gonna be famous now. You're gonna be on YouTube, buddy. Yeah, that was great timing for me, because just as part of what you said, being the end of an era, sort of, here in the States. I mean, to get into a band like Doro at that time and to go to Europe, where things were still kind of wasn't as big of a death of, whatever you want to call it, glam metal, or, 80s hair bands or whatever. That all kind of was dying in the States in '93. Getting to go to Germany and play with an artist who was from Germany and was, still doing really well. Yeah, we did some touring. I got to cut a live album. I mean, I don't know if you want me to go into the whole story of how it actually happened, but
if you could, that'd be great.
Yeah, I was actually the same friend of mine who got me into Wasted in the very beginning. My buddy Jimmy DeLella. He was in Doro before me. She actually got a couple guys. She was living in Manhattan at the time. She really had a thing for American musicians. She had Tommy Hendrickson, who's now in Alice Cooper, in her band for a while, and Bobby Rondinelli played in the band for a bit. So she was really into, finding some other players locally. So Nick Douglas, who's from Blackwood, was playing bass for her, and my buddy Jimmy DeLella was playing keys and guitar, and Chris Franco, who was in Black Eyed Susan with Dean, after Britney, we're all playing with Doro. So it was like all these local guys sort of got the gig. And yeah, at one point Chris bailed, and my buddy Jimmy was like, I got the guy, and told Doro, and she knew of me, and she thought, wow, that sounds cool. Let's check him out. And we didn't really have an audition. I just basically went down to meet them and to play a little bit, and it went really well. And she sort of does what she does. She's very, she's very sort of vibe. She just if she meets somebody and she digs their vibe, it's like she's kind of immediately taken,
Gotcha.
And that happened. And luckily for me, I got to jump in with her and do some great things. And that was like 27 years ago or something like that. So it's been a lot of stuff in between. We made a lot of records. We've done so many gigs and really gone to so many places that, were not really possible that long ago. We went to Russia like 6 or 8 times back in the day. Never got to go there with Britney, even though we were, doing quite well and stuff like that. So it's almost like a second chance at success, or just to keep a momentum of a career going. You know what I mean? And I'm happy just to be playing, and especially in a band with people that I really like. We're more of a family now. Everybody in this band has been here over like 12 years or something like that. Nick being the longest, he's like 30 years already. So it's ridiculously crazy to even think about that we've all been playing together that long.
Now, when you guys come to the States, you handled the role of manager, like road manager, am I right?
Yeah.
Now, what all goes into that? How difficult is? I mean, because our scene here is really dwindling, and I mean, I could understand that it's. I've heard some bands that are from overseas that won't even come here anymore due to just the money situation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the expenses of a tour for a European band are, um, you know, pretty hard to even surmount nowadays, because it's just, I mean, some of these bands who were used to touring by bus, I mean, you can't even, you know, just gas fuel for a bus for a week is like enough to break a band's budget. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like we're playing arenas or something. It's not. It's very difficult. But even from when we really started, I guess in the mid. When was it the first time we came and did a real kind of serious tour in America? It had to be like in the 2000s, And at that time, it was pretty doable. We could get a bus, we could do 50 shows and stuff like that. But over the years, it's kind of gone, pretty scaled down. So basically, I started tour managing to help out, to keep the budget down. And I would just do things like advance all the shows and, hire a crew of people from over here, because we couldn't afford to take our German crew over. And
right.
But yeah, I kind of dug it because there's so many hours in a day, and if you're just waiting around for a show to happen, it can get quite boring, or you start getting yourself into trouble because you're either drinking or you're trying to just pass the time and doing other stuff. So constructive stuff for me would be to just help on the management side. So I started doing that, and I really enjoyed it. I even drove on one tour. I drove a pretty big vehicle.
Oh, wow.
Which was it was called a bandwagon. It's a cross between a box truck and a tour bus. So it's like you can drive it without a CDL, but it's quite an undertaking for me. I mean, I never even pulled a trailer before I drove that thing, and to do it with such a huge RV type vehicle was pretty hilarious. But so yeah, I mean, for a lot of bands, they kind of feel that they wouldn't even want to come over to the States because of that, scaling down or whatever. But Doro's she's so fan obsessed. I mean, she really wants to do everything she can for her fans, which if it means playing some shithole bar to, 150 people, or if it's a small place that just, out in the corner of nowhere. But, there's a lot of hardcore fans out there that don't get what they deserve, so she wants to go to take it to them and do, the best that she can to make people happy and to keep the band working and stuff like that. So that's what we did for quite a few years. We just went out and did, the best we could. Some tours with a bus, some tours without a bus, some tours with a van. I mean, we did some Warlock sort of anniversary shows just by flying from city to city and staying in hotels with,
Gotcha.
No driving involved at all. So, it's like whatever it takes. And usually I would kind of get the dates and go like, okay, what will work here, and work with the manager a little bit to try and set up what we could do within the budget that we had for that particular tour.
I know one of the big shows that we missed you on this year was M3, man. M3 was always a really good time. You guys were set up for that. We were excited to see you guys coming through, and then boom, here we are, and we got hit by everything that came through.
I know, dude. It's been a major bummer for us, especially that one, because we were, been trying to get on that gig for so long, so many years, and that coincides with the European festival season also, so we could never get over on the right time, So this time, we're like, yeah, it's finally going to happen, and then it was like, no, it's not. So
now, has there been any talk on your end or anything in Germany per se as far as what this whole shutdown is going to make the new future look like for us? I mean, as far as music is concerned or the industry at all, any thoughts on that?
I have lots of thoughts, but I don't think anybody can foresee what's going to happen. I mean, it's changing from day to day. And, it's such a weird position to be in, because if you make a choice and you choose wrong, you're going to lose your ass. So,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody from bands to promoters to, vendors, I mean, everybody is just like screwed because they don't know what's going to happen, Nobody can say, oh, we'll have a vaccine by this date so we can, we can get back to normal. I mean,
Right.
We basically have to just wait it out, which really sucks, but that's all we can do. But, I think, like, as we've seen already, and with Doro, we've done a couple drive-in shows just to basically try to do what you can while you can, and then just hope that things sort of come back to normal at some point. But, people will obviously find ways to do things, but it's really nothing we can really foresee or know at this point. So we just kind of have to do what we can and hope for the best.
So what's the next thing in line for you guys? Are you guys getting ready to record anything? Any plans for the near future?
Dora just did a new song during the whole lockdown period. She just she can't sit still. So she did a new single called Brick Wall with her producer, Andreas, up in Hamburg, and they put that out a few weeks ago, and it coincided with a couple drive-in shows that we did. We're doing a few more shows up, like a week or two from now. We have another outdoor gig. It's a little bit of a different concept. It's no cars, but just sort of like seated areas which are spaced out.
Gotcha.
In a at basically a stadium. So we'll see how that goes. And we're just going to continue. We had so many dates planned for this year that all got shelved.
Yeah.
We still have a November tour that's like right on the borderline of whether, you know, it's going to be permitted to go down or not. So we're kind of waiting on that. And, you know, pretty much like your last question, we can't really say what we're going to do, but we probably will continue to work on music. We just don't know when, you know, I mean, I don't know if she'll do another whole record because she just put out a double disc, you know, last year or a year and a half ago. So, you know, I guess everybody's just chomping at the bit at the moment just to create whatever they can. You know, so many people are sitting in their studios, you know, every day here, and there's a lot of creative stuff coming out. But man, everybody's itching to get out there and just play to some real people. You know,
I hear you.
it's such a difference to not have that sort of feedback and that energy from a live crowd. You start to really crave it after a while. You know, musicians need to get out there, fans need to get out and have fun, and so we're all ready to do it. We just got to, you know, make sure we do it safely so we can end this thing and move forward.
So my last question for you, Johnny, is from coming from the East Coast to Germany, how different is the music scene as far as where you're at according to where you came from?
Yeah, I think, well, when I first came here, you know, over 25 years ago, I noticed a really, really huge difference in the fact that it was not as, people weren't as like trend conscious as they are in the States. As you know, we get fed, you know, constantly information overload, you know, and it's like bands after bands after bands. And, you know, at the time, obviously there's no MTV anymore, but at that time, everything changed so much that people jumped on like the grunge thing, and the next thing was like the, you know, all the dark and angry bands. And it's like, you know, it's a generational swing too, but at the same time, in Europe and in Germany in particular, Germany has such a vibrant music scene and really has a good economy. So a lot of people love their music, their live music. They purchase CDs probably more than a lot of other places, you know what I mean? So I noticed that really quite, it was a big switch for me to see that how dedicated fans are here. Like you, if you're a new band and you would come to Germany to do a tour, if you win over, even if you're in a support slot and you win over a crowd every night, and people come, like when Doro tours, the halls are filled when the lights go down, you know, because people want to get their money's worth. They want to see the first band.
Yeah.
They don't even know who it is sometimes, but they want to, you know, and they will get into it. If you give them what they want and they get into it, they'll be fans for a long time, you know, and they won't be so swung by the trendiness of it all. So I think people are or were more loyal here, and there's certainly like a lot, you know, you can come here, like the Hooters, for example, from Philly. I mean, they come to Germany every year. Just from what they've done, you know, I mean, they still make music, but they're just living off of that nostalgia kind of thing as well, you know. So I like that because, you know, bands that can't even really draw like 10 people in the States, which is really sad, can come to Europe or Germany or someplace like Russia or whatever and can just live out their whole career because people still want to see them and hear that music, you know, whether it's a band from the 60s or 70s like Sweet or, you know, whoever. I mean, it's amazing that there's certain bands here that tour that don't even tour in America because, like we were saying earlier, it's just too expensive and you don't draw enough people to really make the expense worthwhile. So yeah, so for anybody out there, just the best thing is always just to support the bands that you really love, and try to be as helpful as possible, as by buying whatever music you can, or special editions, or merch, or whatever it is. A lot of bands do, when they sell merch in America, I mean, that helps them, finance their whole tour. So
Yeah.
it's like you gotta really push those kind of things too.
Johnny, thank you so much for joining us, man. Best
You
of luck
got
for
it.
the future, and give a hug to your little one for me, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Good luck with the podcast and the show, and keep in touch.
Will
Good
do,
talking
man.
to
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out this week's Rock and Roll Union interviews. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down on the bottom of the page. And make sure you check out the Rock and Roll Union podcast live on the VOC Nation Saturday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. And make sure you check out our Facebook page for all the current happenings. Thanks guys, and until next time, take care.